The 50-year-old emperor was selecting concubines. My mother replaced my cousin's name on the list with mine. She wept and begged me.
Your cousin is so innocent and simple. Not as adaptable and clever as you. I have already settled everything. You just need to wait for the draft and go through the motions. Once you are rejected, your younger brother and I will bring you home.
In my past life, I actually believed these words. But after I was rejected and became a palace maid, no family member ever came to fetch me. I waited in the palace day after day, suffering night after night. With great difficulty, I survived 3 years and returned home, only to arrive right during the wedding of my cousin and my fiancé. My mother blocked me at the door, her face full of disgust.
Today is your cousin's big day. Can you not bear to see her happy? Must you come in and cause trouble?
I was driven away from the house and died of illness on the streets, lost and destitute. Opening my eyes once more, I heard the exact same question.
Susu, can you enter the palace in place of your cousin?
Sure, I said, snapping back to reality. I agreed without hesitation. Everyone in front of me froze. My mother, Madame Lua, spoke up half believing and half doubting.
Is that true?
My younger brother looked suspicious. Are you really that kind-hearted? I lowered my gaze. If you don't believe me, it is no loss to me if I don't go. Mother quickly wiped the tears from her face and hurriedly spoke.
Susu, your younger brother was just joking with you. If Lingling had even half your intelligence, why would we need you to replace her? I knew you were a sensible child. It is getting late today. We won't disturb your rest any longer.
The two of them left, and the room fell into silence. I opened the window, and indeed saw several more servants patrolling the courtyard. I sneered. Even if I hadn't agreed, what difference would it make? In my past life, when faced with their request, I had naturally refused. I was already betrothed, and in 3 more months, my fiancé was supposed to come and deliver the betrothal gifts. Why would I be willing to enter the palace for the draft in Lo Fanglin's place? But the very next day, news spread from the courtyard that Lo Fanglin had been saved after throwing herself into the lake. My younger brother, Shen Yunsu, kicked my door open and barged in. Ignoring the fact that I was pointing at Shei, he dragged me out of bed and threw me into the courtyard, loudly demanding of me.
Do you really have to drive her to her death?
My mother, who had never cried before, also had tearful eyes as she said,
Don't you forget, Lingling's father died to save you. On the day she entered our home, you swore to me in person that you would protect her well. How can you be so ungrateful now?
Their successive, resentful accusations caught me completely off guard. Since I was 7 years old, my mother had constantly told me, my uncle died to save my life. The Lua family will not treat this orphan girl well. So, she brought Lua Fangling from her old home in Yangzhou to raise her nearby. I had to yield to her and spoil her. From that day on, the candied hawthorns Shen Yunsu brought back were his. The brocade clothes my mother embroidered by hand were his. The most beautiful clothes and jewelry in the family were also hers. Even in the palace, I spent 3 years living like an ant to be trampled on. No matter how bitter or difficult my life was, I never exposed her. I clenched my fists and secretly vowed that this time I would never be so foolish again. It was a sleepless night. The next day, my mother sent someone to deliver some fine fabrics and jewelry as a way of placating me for entering the palace draft. The little maid held the fabrics with an innocent face and said,
Miss Madam still loves you. Even the young lady's cousin doesn't have fabrics like these.
The corner of my mouth twitched slightly. Of course she didn't, because she had been given something even better. The day of the draft soon arrived. This time, I did not deliberately make myself look ugly like in my past life. Instead, I dressed myself up with meticulous care. I waited with the other women at the palace gates. Some were weeping, while others remained expressionless. Everyone knew the current emperor is lustful, foolish, and tyrannical, as well as old and frail, already in his 50s. If not for the imperial envoys, searching everywhere for beautiful women to enter the palace, no one would want to attend this selection. The vermilion palace gates slowly opened. The leading man wore a black, subtly patterned cross-collar robe. His posture was elegant and refined. He is the highly favored commissioner of flowers and birds beside the emperor, Yu Jingchuan. My heart fluttered slightly, and I couldn't help but look over, meeting those dark eyes, and then brushed past him as the crowd of women moved forward. But the moment we passed through the palace gates, I couldn't resist looking back. This person, whom others described as hiding a dagger behind his smile and being blinded by greed, this Ning Chen, was the only person who had shown me warmth during those 3 years. I forced my thoughts back to the present and kept my eyes straight ahead. Upon returning from the palace, my personal maid came running toward me, her eyes red with anxiety.
Miss, you weren't selected, right?
I did not speak, but instead, I simply pointed and said, Pack up these fabrics mother sent. I'm going to visit my cousin. Luo Fangling lived in the Fangjai courtyard. This courtyard was grand and elegant, second only to the main courtyard. It was originally where I lived, but when I was 10 years old, Luo Fangling mentioned she liked it, and she made me give it up to her. Before I even stepped inside, I heard voices coming from within.
Aunt, I heard that the ladies selected from the Luo family have to serve as palace maids for several years before they can leave. Do you blame me for not entering entering the palace myself?
How could I ever blame you, my dear? My Linger deserves to marry the finest gentleman in the world. Besides, your cousin has a stubborn temperament. Even staying in the palace for a few more months won't hurt.
You are right, Aunt. Cousin is smart. She can broaden her horizons while in the palace.
Don't mention her. Look at this soft Georgette. I specially saved it for you. Do you like it?
I love it, Aunt. You are so good to me, Linger.
I stared coldly at the tightly closed door. It reminded me of my childhood bedroom and my mother's soft, gentle singing as she lulled my cousin to sleep. Outside the room, my hand was raised, yet I never dared to knock. Later, I gathered my courage and asked Mother if she could sing that song to me. She looked at me coldly and said,
How old are you now? Do you still have to compare yourself to your cousin?
But Lua Fangling is only 1 year younger than me. I raised my hand and knocked on the door. Mother did not seem to expect me to be outside. The room went quiet for a moment, and then the door was open. Unsure of how much I had heard, Mother smiled awkwardly.
I thought you usually wear plain clothes, so I decided on my own to give these bright fabrics to your cousin.
How do you know I don't like bright colors, Mother? I looked at her intently, Mother's brow furrowed.
You have never worn bright colors.
She seemed to have forgotten that there was a time when my clothes always matched Lua Fangling's in color. I had even embarrassed myself once at a banquet because of it. She had complained aggrievedly.
Why does it feel like cousin always likes to copy me?
Mother scolded me indiscriminately and ordered the servants never to bring me clothes of the same color as Lua Fangling's again. Since then, I only had plain colors to choose from. My cousin Lua Fangling spoke softly.
It is just a few pieces of fabric. If cousin likes them, she can just take them.
Mother glanced at me, then looked at her with affection again.
You always have such a sweet temperament.
No need. Indeed, I do not care for these fabrics. Let me give these in my hands to cousin as well. When I spoke, Mother's expression softened a bit.
At least you've grown more sensible.
I came today to discuss some matters with Mother, but since I couldn't find Mother, I came to cousin's place instead. What is it? When Father was alive, he said. He would hand over some of the shops in the east of the city to me. Now, I want to take possession of these shops before entering the palace. Mother's brow furrowed.
These will naturally be your dowry in the future. Why must you have them now? Are you trying to split the family? The future is hard to say.
The corner of my mouth twitched slightly. Her dowry would be left to Lua Fangling in the future. But what Father left for me, I must get my hands on it. I'm afraid by the time your daughter comes out of the palace, she will have long passed the age of marriage. Entering the palace like this would also leave me restless day and night.
Why must you be in such a hurry, cousin? For things you want, could Aunt possibly treat you unfairly?
Are you blaming me for sending you to the draft? It is just a matter of going through the motions, yet you have to be so calculative about it.
If cousin is willing to enter the palace herself, then I wouldn't have to worry about these things either. Lua Fangling's face froze. Madame Lua composed herself and said coldly,
For the sake of your entering the palace, these things, I will have them prepared and handed over to you.
In that case, thank you, Mother. I curtsied and stepped away. The moment the door closed, I seemed to hear Mother's voice filled with disgust.
In our Grand General's estate, how did we raise such a money-grubbing, shallow-sighted daughter? She is not even half as good as you, Linger.
Aunt wealth to me is just a worldly possession. Cousin will understand your well-intentioned efforts in the future.
My departing footsteps paused, and I turned back, pushing open the door. Oh right, Mother, the Fengjai courtyard was originally my courtyard. It was decided when Father was still alive. My cousin has been staying here for so many years, and it is time she returned it to me. Also, I remember the pearl powder my cousin used, the shimmering brocade she wore, and the Lantian jade she adorned herself with. They were all taken from my personal allowance, weren't they? Since I am so shallow-minded, and have lent these things to my cousin for over 10 years, wanting them back now isn't too much to ask, is it? If not, then please return them as soon as possible. When I am in a bad mood, I tend to speak recklessly. If the nobles in the palace are disturbed then, it wouldn't be good. The more names I spoke, the more unsightly Mother's expression became, and Luo Fangling's face turned increasingly pale. Yet, she could only utter 3 words. She seemed afraid that I would expose the whole matter. Luo Fangling's people packed up very quickly and moved to another place. I stepped back into Fengjai. The pavilions and terraces in the courtyard, with their upturned eaves, remained as they had always been. Except the shang shay under the blue tiles looked a bit worn now, no longer as bright and vibrant as they were in my memory. I dug out many old belongings from the storehouse. He looked at me for a long time. There was the woodwork my father crafted for me. He built a swing for me in the garden and gave me birthday gifts, including a wooden sword and military books. Back then, I was the most beloved eldest miss of the general's mansion. My father would often hold me up high and teach me martial arts. My mother would also gently bring over fruits and chat and laugh with him. In the yard, my young brother was full of high spirits, brandishing the wooden sword in his hand as he listened to our father's stern instructions.
Zilin, only by mastering the sword today can you properly protect your older sister in the future.
I don't need his protection, Father. I want to learn so I can protect our family.
Everyone burst into hearty laughter. Just when was it? that everything changed. It seemed to be that summer, under a blood-red setting sun, when I was immersed in the grief of my father, dying on the battlefield. But mother led a young girl in through the main entrance. That was the year Luo Fangling and I both lost our fathers. Only, the difference was, she gained a family who doted on her from then on, while I was left all alone. I carefully put these things away and placed them in the side room, perhaps because I was reminiscing about the past. My night was filled with strange, chaotic dreams. It wasn't until the sky turned slightly pale that I finally fell into a deep sleep, only to be startled awake by a loud crashing noise.
Shen Yunsu, get the hell out here. Just because you did one good deed, you snatch sister A Ling's courtyard and even claim you'll cut off her monthly allowance. They were right. You are nothing but an ungrateful ingrate.
I changed my clothes and walked out, only to see the courtyard in utter disarray. My heart instantly sank to the bottom. On the ground lay the relics I had carefully put away last night. Except now, the books were torn to pieces, and the wooden sword was covered in gashes. A young man clad in crimson clothes stood in the courtyard, holding a sword in his arms, his face full of impatience.
Where did this trash come from? Hurry up and throw it out, lest it dirty sister A Ling's courtyard. Don't think that just because you went to the palace in her place, it counts as some massive favor. That marriage proposal from the third young master Qi, mother originally intended to arrange it for sister A Ling. It was you who shamelessly snatched it first. If not for that, why else would the Luo family have sent her to the palace? This is what you owed her in the first place.
I raised my hand and, with a loud slap, slapped the young man across the face. The crisp sound echoed through the air. Shen Zilin stood there, completely stunned. All this time, I had doted on Shen Zilin deeply, let alone ever raising a hand against him. But at this very moment, looking at the person in front of me, I felt an overwhelming sense of strangeness. This person who carelessly ruins the things my father left for me, and treats me with nothing but contempt. Is he really that bright, smiling boy? I can no longer remember when we became so distant. Was it when he first blushed for Luo Fangling? Or when he first misunderstood that I was bullying Luo Fangling?
You dare slap me?
Without hesitation, I raised my hand and slapped him again. Do you have any idea what you just threw and broke?
I don't care what it is. It is just tattered, filthy garbage. You're intentionally using this junk to clutter the courtyard.
Embarrassed and enraged, Shen Zilin shoved me to the ground with great force. The gravel immediately scraped the palms of my hands. A nearby maid quickly rushed over.
Miss, are you all right?
Lest you forget, this is the Shen estate. I am a lady of the Shen family. Every brick I step on here, and every grain of rice I eat, is mine by right. Whether I choose to give them to others is entirely up to me.
Cousin, no matter how many wrongs were done, it is all my fault.
A delicate voice came from the entrance. Luo Fangling walked in, holding up her skirt. Looking at the red mark on Shen Zilin's face, she looked deeply distressed. Then she looked at me.
Cousin, please don't blame Zilin. I am living very well in the new courtyard. There was no need for him to demand a courtyard for me.
Coming to his senses, Shen Zilin pulled Luo Fangling's hand down, revealing the rash on her wrist.
You have a rash all over your hand. You simply cannot get used to sleeping there.
Since my cousin is so delicate, how is it that while still in the general's estate, she cannot sleep comfortably just because the room faces a different direction?
It is I who am too fragile. As long as cousin doesn't blame Zilin, that is enough.
Luo Fangling's expression darkened, and she withdrew her hand. Shen Zilin grew even more resentful.
You are clearly about to enter the palace within a few days. Why must you still steal her things?
Since you know, I am about to enter the palace. Regarding Luo Fangling's food, clothing, and housing, which of them has mother not personally managed? New clothes for winter, extra ice for summer, everything provided in meticulous detail. Whenever she suffers even the slightest grievance, someone is always there to stand up for her.
Cousin is right. Cousin has helped me so much, so it is only right that she takes these things back.
Luo Fangling stepped closer, her eyes welling with tears. Yet, I could clearly see the trace of smugness in the depths of her eyes. Shen Zilin was furious. He suddenly bellowed.
I wish you would go into the palace and never ever come back.
My heart sank straight to the bottom. Even though I already knew their true nature, I still couldn't help but feel hurt. Luo Fangling seemed to notice my distress and insisted on stepping closer. Get lost. The moment I spoke, she fell backward right on cue, making it look from behind as if I had pushed her. Shen Zilin immediately rushed forward to support her, his face filled with disgust. You actually pushed her.
So you harbored such deep resentment in your heart.
Madame Luo appeared at the main entrance and walked over.
Linger, are you all right?
Her gaze fell upon Luo Fangling first. Luo Fangling nodded weakly.
I'm fine, Aunt. please don't blame cousin.
Using your impending entry into the palace as an excuse to take her courtyard wasn't enough. Now you must cause such a scene. Do you think I will just indulge you?
Aunt, please don't argue with my cousin because of me.
Luo Fangling pleaded to stop her, though the look she threw at me was triumphant. Taking a deep breath, I asked, Mother, am I truly your biological daughter?
You are completely out of line. Kneel down.
Ignoring her anger, I looked her straight in the eye. From childhood to adulthood, I never resented you for your neglect, nor did I ever envy her because of you. Now, I am merely taking back what belongs to me. Does that make me so utterly wicked? But these things happen to be what father left for me, and no outsider can snatch them away. Madame Luo raised her hand. My face swelled up red. She was trembling with rage.
I run the general's mansion now. It is not your place to speak. You owe your life to the Luo family. You are destined to pay it back. Disobedient and unfilial child. Go kneel in the ancestral hall as punishment, and reflect on your mistakes for 3 days.
How lively indeed.
A smiling voice drifted in.
No wonder I was waiting outside for so long and saw no one.
Everyone turned around. Seeing the imperial decree in the hand of the man dressed in black, they instantly understood why the envoy of flowers and birds had come.
Could it be that my foolish daughter did something wrong in the palace?
Madame Luo quickly masked her expression. Yu Jingchuan glanced at the red mark on my face. He smiled and said,
I am here to deliver an imperial decree on behalf of His Majesty. Miss Shen has been appointed as a female official. Congratulations.
A female official. There must be some mistake. My cousin went to the palace for the draft selection.
Luo Fangling could not believe her ears. Yu Jingchuan's expression remained unchanged.
Miss Shen possesses extraordinary martial skills, which won the favor of His Majesty. Are you attempting to question this?
We wouldn't dare. Dumbfounded everyone hurriedly fell to their knees. I was the only one Yu Jingchuan helped up. He said with pointed meaning,
By the laws of our dynasty, disrespecting an official is punishable by 20 heavy floggings. Miss Shen now holds an official post. I presume the general's mansion would not knowingly break the law.
After leaving the rewards behind, Yu Jingchuan departed with his entourage. Shen Zilin was in disbelief.
How could His Majesty possibly appoint you as a female official?
That is because of my own abilities. I replied flatly. Luo Fangling tugged at Madame Luo's sleeve and whispered,
Cousin has been raised in the inner chambers for years. How could she have the kind of skills the envoy spoke of? If the emperor finds out...
Madame Luo was also seething with anger.
You are being far too reckless. You were only supposed to go through the motions. Yet you want to drag the entire family down with you.
The emperor has already appointed me as the commander of the West Army. If you are so afraid of me bringing trouble upon you, it would be best for you to leave the general's mansion as soon as possible. You, fuming with anger, Madame Luo raised her hand. The nanny beside her quickly held her back.
Madam, do not forget what that lord said.
Madame Luo calmed herself down.
Linger is right. Lest you act without knowing your place and drag me down, I might as well remove your name from the family registry early on.
Shen Yunsu, when your day of reckoning comes, do not beg us to save you.
It is getting late today. See the guests out. I swept a cold glance over them, turned around, and left. Time goes back to the day I entered the palace. As the candidates presented their skills, only when it came to my turn, I spoke up. Your Majesty, I have another skill I wish to demonstrate to your Majesty.
Oh, what is it?
Gathering my strength, I immediately performed a set of fist techniques. I had practiced by my father's side since childhood. Even after he passed away, I never dared to slack off in the courtyard. Once my smooth and flowing demonstration ended, I knelt down and pleaded, I humbly volunteer myself. I wish to join the army to serve the imperial court and carry on my father's legacy. The emperor hesitated.
But you are a woman.
Noble consort Gao beside him smiled and said,
It is not without precedent for women to join the army. Besides, I see that Miss Shen is highly skilled in martial arts. She is truly a worthy daughter of a brave father. Your father, Shen Chenglin, was a fine general. It is just a pity he passed away so young.
Yu Jingchuan, who was standing to the side, also bowed.
Currently, there are pirate raids in the south, and the Xiongnu are eyeing us greedily from the north. Since a capable person has volunteered, Your Majesty might as well give her a try.
The emperor finally granted permission. Only then did my heart put at ease. This was the only opportunity I could grasp. 3 days later, I was to join the army. Before my departure, neither Madame Luo nor Shen Zilin showed up. Just as I was about to set off, Luo Fangling arrived. She said in a leisurely tone,
Cousin, why go through all this? Why go to the military camp to suffer like this? Once you leave, I'm afraid you won't know. That aunt has already decided to arrange a marriage between me and the third young Master Chi.
Then I wish you the best of luck. Taking one last look at the plaque of the general's mansion, I whipped my horse and left. The wind and sand in the northwest were very harsh. For half a month, I ate and lived alongside the soldiers, swallowing flatbread seasoned with wind and sand, and drinking the harsh, raw river water. There were many elders in the military camp who had once fought alongside my father, yet they were exceptionally harsh to me.
What is a little girl doing on the battlefield? At your age, You should be betrothed to a good family and live a life of wealth and comfort. Swords and spears have no eyes. Don't go getting yourself hurt. You won't be able to adapt. We should return to the mansion as soon as possible.
But no matter how much ridicule and harsh criticism I faced, I grit my teeth and endured, learning by the side of my elders. Whether it was martial arts or strategy, I had to admit that although I had studied military strategy thoroughly since childhood and was influenced by my father, compared to their vast practical combat experience, I was still lacking in many ways. Fortunately, though they often ridiculed and mocked me, they never stopped me from learning. I thought I would gradually win their approval. Until the Xiongnu launched a surprise attack, the soldiers quickly reacted and immediately drew their swords to fight. One of the uncles reacted by trying to push me into a tent. Just hide here and don't cause any chaos. I immediately refused. In front of all the uncles, I spoke with complete sincerity. Uncles, you once fought on the battlefield with my father and are my elders. Everyone says my father was a great general, but unfortunately, the time I spent with him was too short. Now, the Shen general's mansion is declining day by day. My younger brother has not yet entered government service, nor has he ever shown any interest in martial arts. I cannot bear to see my father's legacy go uninherited. I beg all of you, my uncles, to give me a chance. Perhaps my plea was too heartfelt. Everyone fell silent. After a moment, someone said,
You little girl actually possess quite a bit of Brother Changli's spirit. Since that is the case, then come with us.
We immediately set out to engage the enemy, relying on my accumulated knowledge and my familiarity with the terrain gained over these days. I proposed a tactical layout, which quickly dealt a heavy blow to the raiding Xiongnu. It was a resounding victory. With one success came another. By the spring of the following year, the Xiongnu finally sent envoys to sue for peace, and my status in the military camp soared dramatically. Returning to the capital once again, I rode atop a tall grand horse. The stagnant and depressed state of mind from the past vanished into thin air. The emperor was highly pleased. He promoted me to vice general and specifically bestowed a commemorative plaque. Today's General Shen's estate is no longer just a shadow of my father's past glory, but belongs to me, Shen Yunsu's Shen. After thanking the emperor, Yu Jingchuan was ordered to escort me back to my estate. The clip-clop of horse hooves echoed on the blue cobblestones, accompanied by the man's light chuckle beside my ear.
It has been a year, and young General Shen is as magnificent as ever.
Lord Yu, you flatter me, I replied with polite formality, though my heart was somewhat conflicted. Just now, in front of the emperor, I had made some minor slips in my report. Fortunately, Yu Jingchuan had covered for me in time, preventing anyone from noticing. But I could not understand why he was helping me so much, even in my past life. Soon, my doubts were answered. Yu Jingchuan smiled faintly.
Young General Shen, times are different now. Noble consort Gao asked me to convey her regards to you.
I understood immediately. The emperor was aging, and the princes below were constantly engaged in covert strife, the most heated of which was the battle between noble consort Gao's third prince and the faction of the fourth prince. On the surface, Yu Jingchuan was the emperor's favorite, but in secret, he was helping the third prince's faction. And in my past life, it was indeed the third prince who ascended the throne. Thinking of this, I nodded. Of course. I must also thank Her Highness for recognizing my worth back then. Yu Jingchuan's lips parted, as if he wanted to say something more. However, we had already arrived at the general's mansion. I cupped my hands in thanks and took my leave. Just as I stepped inside the gates, there were 3 people standing together waiting for me. Leading them was Lady Luo, with Shen Zilin and Luo Fangling standing on her left and right.
Susu, you are finally back.
Lady Luo's smile was warm and caring. Shen Zilin was also exceptionally excited.
Sister, I heard you won the battle. The emperor was also extremely pleased and even bestowed rewards upon the Shen family.
Luo Fangling also spoke softly.
Cousin is truly amazing. Knowing that you were returning today, Aunt specially went to the kitchen and made a whole table of dishes.
I didn't even raise my eyelids, only replying flatly, I have already eaten in the palace. I am a bit tired, so I will head back to Fangjai Courtyard first. No one has touched that place, right?
That is only natural.
Lady Luo nodded awkwardly.
Since you are tired, you should rest early.
I turned around and left immediately. How cold they were on the day I left home only made this present moment seem incredibly ridiculous. Although the Shen mansion had changed, fortunately, Fangjai Courtyard remained just as it was. Life in the military camp kept me from staying idle. At the break of dawn, I began practicing martial arts in the courtyard. A maid brought over a light breakfast. After eating, I began to handle some military affairs, until someone came to report that Lady Luo had arrived. Lady Luo rarely sought me out, but I had already expected this. I had the servant let her in.
Susu, I have prepared some new clothes for you. It took quite a lot of effort.
She was all smiles. As she took the tray from her maid's hands, I glanced at it and knew immediately that she hadn't made those clothes herself. But I didn't call her out, only saying, just leave them there. Madame Louis put them down awkwardly. She looked around the courtyard and quickly added,
There are really too few maids in your courtyard. How about I send a few more over?
No need, my personal guards will be arriving. I flatly refused, cutting short her eager flattery. Mother, please speak plainly. Madame Lu offered a faint smile.
My daughter indeed knows me best. Xin is about to take the autumn imperial examinations. As his elder sister, you must help support him. Only then will you have someone to rely on in court in the future. Also, I heard the emperor is hosting a victory banquet. Do you think you could bring Suen Tuan Ain along to attend? For a woman, marriage is the most important thing. If Simdi shows her face more before the noble ladies and marries well in the future, it will also be a help to you.
Isn't Louis Fengling already betrothed? Madame Louis cleared her throat and said,
If there is a better choice, wouldn't that be even better?
You simply want to cling to power and wealth. Why speak of it with such high-sounding pretexts? I said indifferently. Madame Lou's face darkened instantly, yet she didn't quite dare to talk back to me. I tapped my index finger lightly on the table. This matter isn't entirely out of the question.
Really?
I said calmly, speaking of which, the keys to the estate's storeroom have been in Mother's hands for over 10 years. Realizing what I wanted, Madame Lu instantly looked displeased, but she didn't dare to show it openly.
Is there something improper?
Her bias had already leaned entirely to one side. I spoke up. It is not that anything is improper. It is just that inside the storeroom, most of the items are the weapons and scrolls left behind by Father, for my convenience in retrieving them in the future. Why don't you hand the key over to me, Mother? Once my cousin finds a good husband, you will be able to set your mind at ease. Fine, Madame Law finally nodded. Not long after Madame Law left, a young servant delivered the key to the storehouse. I opened the long-sealed doors of the storehouse. The general's mansion's truly valuable treasures were not kept here. Most of the items here were old belongings. Yet they were things I treasured immensely. I swept my gaze over each item, my eyes filled with nostalgia. Besides, I wanted to find a specific item among these old belongings. The day of the celebratory banquet arrived. Luo Fengling dressed up in showy, gorgeous attire, waiting for me at the mansion gates early on. As for me, I wore a simple, dark patterned green robe, without any excessive ornaments in my hair. Once we boarded the carriage, Madame Luo, still uneasy, repeatedly exhorted me.
Take good care of your cousin.
The carriage set off. Sitting to the side, Luo Fengling wore a bright, sweet smile. Seemingly in high spirits, she wanted to engage in small talk with me, but I closed my eyes to rest and did not respond. Her eyes darted around, and she had no choice but to swallow her words. The carriage quickly arrived at the palace gates. As we stepped down from the carriage, I warned her, watch your words and behavior. Do not embarrass the Shen mansion. Luo Fengling toyed with her hair and nodded reluctantly. As the grand palace gates slowly swung open, her eyes were filled with secret delight, which I saw with perfect clarity. Inside the palace hall, drums and gongs resonated loudly, and deafening drums and gongs in a lively atmosphere. After I walked in, many people exchanged warm pleasantries with me. Some also noticed Luo Fengling beside me and asked, and this lady is?
This is Luo Fengling, my cousin, who is temporarily staying at the Shen mansion.
Luo Fengling posed with delicate grace, curtsying elegantly. Upon hearing this, the guest nodded. It was just that a strange look flickered in their eyes. After everyone was seated for the banquet, this strange reaction became even more pronounced. Those who were chatting and laughing with me would, upon seeing Luo Fengling, quickly avert their gazes. Several times, Luo Fengling wanted to speak, but people would walk away before he could even finish. His face grew increasingly sullen.
The emperor has arrived!
The officials rose to pay their respects. With a grand wave of his hand, the emperor, he motioned for everyone to be seated. Luo Fengling wanted to sit next to me, but a young eunuch nearby bowed and said,
Miss, your seat is not here.
I am his cousin. Why can't we sit together?
Seating is arranged according to rank. Miss, you are neither a family member of a meritorious official and hold no official rank.
I'm afraid. Luo Fengling glanced at me, lowered his voice, and said,
No wonder you agreed so easily to let me come along. You probably just wanted to see me make a fool of myself.
I quietly sipped my tea, paying him no mind. She had no choice but to be led away by the eunuch, seething with anger. After 3 rounds of drinks, the atmosphere of the banquet became exceptionally lively. Suddenly, someone sat down beside me. The man smiled faintly.
Why are you sitting here all by yourself?
Just drinking tea, that is all. I set down my teacup. Yu Jingchuan's eyes carried a dashing charm.
I just saw that cousin of yours heading toward the Imperial Garden. The 4th prince seems to be there as well.
Ultimately, he belongs to the Luo family. Even if something happens, it is not for the Shen family to step in. My expression remained calm. Yu Jingchuan unhurriedly poured me a cup of wine.
I heard you sent someone to your hometown of Yangzhou to investigate something.
My eyes grew wary. He smiled faintly.
No need to be tense. It is just that my men happened to pass through Yangzhou, so they brought the news back along the way.
My hands tightened and then relaxed. After a moment I sighed. Then what does Lord Yu desire?
So even my good intentions won't do?
Yu Jingchuan feigned surprise. I stared at him intently, he said calmly.
And here I thought we were friends.
I didn't say a word, only raising my glass to toast him. After a moment, a commotion arose in the distance. People began whispering among themselves.
Who on earth had the audacity to seduce the fourth prince in the imperial garden, and she was even caught by the fourth prince's consort.
Luo Fangling was dragged over by palace maids, his hair disheveled and wild. Her face bore red marks, and she wept with her head bowed. Standing behind her is the ice-cold consort of the fourth prince, and the fourth prince, whose eyes gleam with amusement. Your Majesty. This woman appeared out of nowhere. She knows no propriety, and actually tried to seduce the fourth prince. The fourth prince's consort was the first to speak. The emperor, looking drowsy, said,
We are tired. Let noble consort Gao handle this matter.
Noble consort Gao glanced at me, instantly understanding.
For disrupting palace rules, she shall be punished with 20 strokes of the board.
Luo Fangling had not expected this outcome and panicked instantly.
Noble consort, please spare my life. Cousin, save me. Aunt explicitly told you to take good care of me.
I heard this Luo girl has lived in the Shen estate for over 10 years. Even Madame Shen dotes on her more. She has a greater reputation than the legitimate daughter. No wonder Miss Shen left for the military camp, even after her betrothal was set. Some people really treat their nieces better than their own daughters.
The crowd whispered and gossiped. My expression remained unchanged.
Cousin, if anything happens to me, Aunt will never forgive you.
This immediately confirmed the onlookers' suspicions. I stood up and curtsied to the imperial noble consort. This girl's lack of propriety is indeed due to my mother's overindulgent raising. However, 20 strokes of the board are too harsh. If they are carried out, I fear. Seeing me speak up, Luo Fangling's expression relaxed, but she did not expect that in the next moment. I shifted the topic. Why don't we cut the punishment in half and send her back to her ancestral hall to reflect on her actions, and she shall not be allowed into the palace again. Luo Fangling's face instantly turned pale. She murmured,
If things turn out this way, what respectable family would ever marry me? Shen Yunsu, how dare you block my path?
Noble consort Gao also nodded.
Very well, we shall proceed according to.
Wait, I am willing to take this lady as my concubine.
The fourth prince suddenly spoke up. Everyone was somewhat stunned, and before they could even react, Luo Fangling gritted her teeth and nodded. This lower maid is willing. The farce in the palace finally came to an end. After returning home, Luo Fangling was bursting with pride.
So what if you are a general? The fourth prince said that once he ascends the throne, I will be a noble consort. When the time comes, you will still have to bow to me.
I glanced at her and remained silent. This path wouldn't be as easy as Luo Fangling imagined. Once this news reached them, both Madame Luo and Shen Zeline were shocked. With a face full of heartache, Madame Luo said,
How could you become a concubine?
He turned, wanting to look at me, but seeing my cold expression, he hesitated and didn't dare to speak. Luo Fangling dismissed it indifferently.
Aunt, this is the fourth prince we are talking about. In the future, when Anyway, just wait to live a life of luxury.
Madame Luo had no choice but to remain silent. She had wanted to prepare for the wedding properly, but with the consort of the fourth prince suppressing things, the scale of a concubine entering the estate could not be too grand, and she could only enter through the side gate. In the end, they could only rush through it. Luo Fangling married into the estate of the fourth prince, before Madame Luo even had time to worry about her. In the blink of an eye, the results of the autumn imperial examination were released. Only, Shen Zeline's name was not on the list. Lady Luo hurriedly dragged him to find me.
Can you go to the emperor and say some good words on his behalf to secure a position for him?
No, mother, you think too highly of me. I replied flatly. Lady Luo's face changed instantly, and she could only plead in a softened voice.
I know your brother didn't treat you very well in the past, but he was just young and ignorant then. After all, you two are biological siblings.
So mother actually knew about those things. Then you must also remember what kind of life I lived back then. How did I get to where I am today? And why would I pave the way for someone else? I curled my lips into a cold smile. Seeing this, Shen Zeline flung off his mother's hand.
Why beg her? We are both father's children. I don't believe I can't carve out a place for myself.
I smiled faintly and said nothing. As winter approached, the emperor's health grew worse by the day. Yu Jingchuan sent word for me to make some preparations. I understood and had no time to worry about them. In the first year of the Shengyuan era, the emperor passed away, leaving an imperial decree naming the third prince as the new emperor. The fourth prince's faction claimed that this decree had been forged by noble consort Gao. Consequently, they rebelled on the spot. The capital fell into great turmoil, and all the households lived in fear. Lady Luo also left the Shen household, only because I belonged to the third prince's faction. I did not know what Luo Fangling had said to him after entering the fourth prince's manor, but he actually came to advise me. The fourth prince has the upper hand now. You would do better to follow a wise master. I ignored him, and simply sent people to put him under house arrest. But within a few days, he went missing. When spring came, I led a troop of light cavalry into the palace gates, cutting off the retreat of the fourth prince's forces from behind, and secured the final victory. The fourth prince was captured and committed suicide in the imperial prison the next day. Meanwhile, all of his family members were sentenced to exile. The third prince successfully ascended the throne, changing the era name to Tianyuan, and I was bestowed the title of Grand General defending the state, becoming the first female general in our dynasty. In April, the grass grew tall and the orioles flew. With spring in full bloom, I finally had some free time. As it happened, Yu Jingchuan invited me for a drink at Tianxiang Pavilion, so I went out in casual attire. Walking onto the main street, I happened to run into the exiled family members of the fourth prince. Among them was a woman in tattered clothes, who was pleading desperately.
I really have nothing to do with the household of the fourth prince. My daughter is the Grand General defending the state. Officer, I beg of you, please let me go.
This voice sounded somewhat familiar. I took a closer look. The woman's eyes lit up, and she immediately rushed toward me.
Daughter, I am your mother.
The guards immediately held her back and bowed to me.
Greetings, General. This is the mother of a concubine from the fourth prince's household. To think she has the audacity to speak such words. We will teach her a good lesson later. Indeed, who doesn't know that the general's mother went missing during the rebellion? Perhaps she was killed by the fourth prince's people.
I looked over. Madame Luo looked into my eyes, her gaze filled with desperate pleading.
No, I didn't. Susu, I was wrong.
She reached out her hand, seeming to want to touch me, but was quickly pulled back by another pair of hands.
Mother, what on earth is wrong with you? Didn't you say that even if I were exiled, you would still take care of me?
Let go. I am not your birth mother at all. I out of kindness raised you for over 10 years, and yet you want to drag me down.
Mother, how can you say such a thing? You must have lost your mind. Don't even think about leaving me.
The two were quickly whipped once by the officers and shoved back. I shook my head, my heart filled with incredibly complex emotions. When I arrived at Tianxiang Pavilion, a dark figure had already raised a wine cup. Yu Jingchuan is considered a trusted confidant of the third prince. Having contributed greatly this time, he was appointed as the Grand Marshal. Countless people scrambled to curry favor with him. Though he smiled, he rejected them all, without exception, remaining close only to me.
You're late. You must be penalized with 3 cups first.
A flask of wine was tossed over, and I caught it perfectly. I opened the flask and took a drink. The crisp, clear aroma of the wine filled my mouth, awakening my dormant senses. Outside the balcony, the bright spring sunshine washed over me, and my gloomy mood was instantly swept away. The man beside me chuckled.
General Shen has a limitless future. Why trouble yourself over past people and past events?
You're right. I smiled slightly, clinking my cup against his. The spring sun was shining brightly. Let us just enjoy the rest of our lives to the fullest.